What if a single lecture could change the course of a prestigious university's academic offerings? Swami Vivekananda's groundbreaking address at Harvard not only left a lasting impression, but also led to unexpected offers, which he declined for the sake of his spiritual path. Welcome to this episode where we explore a pivotal moment in Swami Vivekananda's journey, a moment that bridged Eastern spirituality with Western academia. We'll delve into his landmark lecture at Harvard University, his profound contributions through the Vedanta Society, and his vision for an intercultural exchange of ideas. Discover how Vivekananda's remarkable journey continued to shape his mission and inspire those around him. On March 25, 1896, he delivered his famous lecture on the philosophy of Vedanta before the graduate students of the philosophy department of Harvard University. It produced such an impression that he was offered the chair of Eastern philosophy in the university. Later, a similar offer came from Columbia University, but he declined both on the ground that he was a sannyasin. In 1894, Swami Vivekananda had established the Vedanta Society of New York as a non-sectarian organization with the aim of preaching the universal principles of Vedanta. It became better organized in 1896. Tolerance and religious universalism formed its motto, and its members generally came to be known as Vedantins. In the meantime, the Swami's great works, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga, were receiving marked attention from many thoughtful people of the country. The Swami was serious about organizing Hinduism on a sound, universal, ethical, and rational basis, so that it would appeal to earnest thinkers in all parts of the world. He wanted to reinterpret, in keeping with the methods of modern science, the Hindu view of the soul, the Godhead, the relationship between matter and energy, and cosmology. Further, he wanted to classify the apparently contradictory passages of the Upanishads bearing on the doctrines of dualism, qualified non-dualism, and absolute non-dualism, and show their ultimate reconciliation. In order to achieve this end, he asked his devotees in India to send him the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutras with their commentaries by the leading acharyas, and also the Brahmana portions of the Vedas and the Puranas. He himself wanted to write this maximum testamentum, this universal gospel, in order to translate Hindu thought into Western language. He expressed his objective in a letter written to one of his disciples on February 17, 1896. To put the Hindu ideas into English and then make out of dry philosophy and intricate mythology and queer, startling psychology, a religion which shall be easy, simple, popular, and at the same time meet the requirements of the highest minds, is a task which only those can understand who have attempted it. The abstract Advaita must become living, poetic in everyday life, and out of bewildering yogism must come the most scientific and practical psychology, and all this must be put into such a form that a child may grasp it. That is my life's work. The Lord only knows how far I shall succeed. To work we have the right, not to the fruits thereof. The Swami always wanted a healthy interchange of ideas between East and West. This was one of the aims of the Vedanta Society of New York. He felt the need of centers of vital and continual communication between the two worlds to make open doors, as it were, through which the East and the West could pass freely back and forth, without a feeling of strangeness, as from one home to another. Already he had thought of bringing to America some of his brother disciples as preachers of Vedanta. He also wanted to send some of his American and English disciples to India to teach science, industry, technology, economics, applied sociology, and other practical things which the Indians needed in order to improve their social conditions and raise their standard of living. He often told his American disciples of his vision that the time would come when the lines of demarcation between East and West would be obliterated. From England he had already written to Swami Sharadananda to prepare to come to the West. In the spring of 1896, letters began to pour in from England beseeching Swami Vivekananda to return there and continue his activities. The Swami felt the need of concentrating on the work in both London and New York, the two great metropolises of the Western world. Therefore, he made arrangements with Miss Waldo and other qualified disciples to continue his program in America during his absence. Mr. Francis Leggett was made the president of the Vedanta Society. The Swami had also been receiving letters from his friends in India begging for his return. He said he would come as soon as possible, but he encouraged them to organize the work, warning them against the formation of any new cult around the person of Sri Ramakrishna, who, to the Swami, was the demonstration of the eternal principles of Hinduism. On April 14, 1896, he wrote to India that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was God and all that sort of thing has no go in countries like this. M has a tendency to put that stuff down everybody's throat, but that will make our movement a little sect. You keep separate from such attempts. At the same time, if people worship him as God, no harm. Neither encourage nor discourage. The masses will always have the person, the higher ones, the principle. We want both. But principles are universal, not persons. Therefore, stick to the principles he taught and let people think whatever they like of his person. The Swami now made definite arrangements to leave for London on April 15th, and after carrying out his plans there, to sail for his motherland. It should be apparent to readers of Swami Vivekananda's life that he worked under great pressure, from a fraction of which a lesser person would have collapsed in no time. Naturally, he spent his few spare moments in fun and joking. He would read a copy of Punch or some other comic paper and laugh till tears rolled down his cheeks. He loved to tell the story of a Christian missionary who was sent to preach to the cannibals. The new arrival proceeded to the chief of the tribe and asked him, "Well, how did you like my predecessor?" The cannibal replied, smacking his lips, "Simply delicious." Another was the story of a darky clergyman who, while explaining the creation, shouted to his congregation. You see, God was a making Adam, and he was a making him out of mud. And when he got him made, he stuck him up again a fence to dry. And then, "Hold on, dar preacher," suddenly cried out a learned listener. "What's dat about dis here fence? Who's made this fence?" The preacher replied sharply, "Now you listen here, Sam Jones. Don't you be asking sich questions. You'll be a smashing up all theology." By way of relaxation, he would often cook an Indian meal at a friend's house. On such occasions, he brought out from his pockets tiny packets of finely ground spices. He would make hot dishes which his Western disciples could hardly eat without burning their tongues. They were, no doubt, soothing to his high-strung temperament, but the Swami's brain was seething with new ideas all the time. He very much wanted to build a temple universal, where people of all faiths would gather to worship the Godhead through the symbol Om, representing the undifferentiated Absolute. At another time, in the beginning of the year 1895, he wrote to Mrs. Bull about buying 108 acres of land in the Catskill Mountains where his students would build camps and practice meditation and other disciplines during the summer holidays. A touching incident, which occurred in 1894, may be told here. It shows the high respect in which some of the ladies of Cambridge, Massachusetts, held the Swami and his mother. The Swami one day spoke to them about the ideals of Indian women, particularly stressing the ideal of Indian motherhood. They were greatly moved. The following Christmas, they sent the Swami's mother in India a letter together with a beautiful picture of the child Jesus on the lap of the Virgin Mary. They wrote in the letter, "At this Christmastide, when the gift of Mary's Son to the world is celebrated and rejoiced over with us, it would seem the time of remembrance. We, who have your Son in our midst, send you greetings. His generous service to men, women, and children in our midst was laid at your feet by him in an address he gave us the other day on the ideals of motherhood in India. The worship of his mother will be to all who heard him an inspiration and an uplift." The Swami often spoke to his disciples about his mother's wonderful self-control, and how on one occasion she had gone without food for 14 days. He acknowledged that her character was a constant inspiration to his life and work. The love and adoration in which the Swami was held by his Western disciples can hardly be overemphasized. Some described him as the lordly monk, and some as a grand seigneur. Mrs. Leggett said that in all her experience she had met only two celebrated personages who could make one feel perfectly at ease, without for an instant losing their own dignity. And one of them was Swami Vivekananda. Sister Nivedita described him aptly as a Plato in thought and a modern Savonarola in his fearless outspokenness. William James of Harvard addressed him as Master and referred to him in varieties of religious experience as the paragon of Vedantists. In our next episode, we follow Swami Vivekananda's journey to London, where he not only reunited with a cherished spiritual brother, but also engaged in a flurry of activities that furthered his mission. Join us as we uncover his vibrant lectures, influential meetings, and the profound personal connections he made in England. Thank you for listening till the end. Please subscribe, turn on the notifications, like, comment, and share with your friends. This will help more listeners to discover our channel and content.